was going through a rough time when I saw her in the city lights, and I didn't realize that she already was the right one. I was going through the worst night when I saw her, she was shining bright, and I didn't realize that she already was the right one for me. Baby, it's crazy. These drugs feel like ecstasy. You can't tell the difference between dreams and reality. I was riding through a dark night when I saw her in the city lights, and she didn't realize that she already was the right one. She was riding through the red lights.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Winifred Okocha, an editor at LinkedIn News covering all things Africa. I'm coming to you live from our LinkedIn offices in London, and I will be your host today. Firstly, thank you for joining us today, and thanks to all of you who have been following our page and liking and commenting on our content. We've cultivated a wonderful, curious, knowledgeable community here on LinkedIn. If you're not yet following, what are you waiting for? We'd love to have you join the community. Please do go ahead and follow the LinkedIn News Africa page to see what we're sharing and to keep up to date with the news that matters to you. As you join us, I'd like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves in the comments. What's your name? Where are you watching us from? Now let's get to the moment you've all joined me for.
She go wine now, well, when she start. Any money where I get it, I dey flex it. Come out to the field, my field jet it. Any money where I get it, I dey flex it. Come out to the field, my field jet it.
Global music superstar, Afrobeats innovator, serial investor. Mr Eazi is today's example of a successful, multi-hyphenate African entrepreneur. And he's joining LinkedIn News Africa today to discuss his journey, what he's working on right now, and what advice he'd give to those just starting out in their careers. Mr Eazi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Winnie, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I thought you were just gonna keep playing Patek. Then I would have started dancing.
I wish we could on this sunny afternoon. I think we all need it on this Friday, don't we? To have a bit of a dance.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. I just want to get right into it, but I want to ask you a question first. I know that you're a really chill guy. How did you get your name? Is that why you got your name Mr. Eazi? Because you're so easygoing?
Yeah, because a lot of people say I talk slowly. I consciously try to speak like a little bit faster. And my demeanor most times most times is always calm. I'm back in uni and I was always kind of in between stopping people from fighting, and I'd be like, take it easy. And people just started calling me Easy. And I think it's stuck.
Oh, well, that's great. That's a great story. That's brilliant. I know you're very, very easygoing, and we've been talking for a little bit over the past few days ahead of this live, and I just want to thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
So I know you're a fitness fan. Let's jump right into that. Could you talk us through what a normal day for Mr. Eazi looks like? Starting with your fitness routine.
Yeah, it depends. Like if I'm back in Accra, or Cotonou, where I've been the most of this year, the day starts like 6 a.m. I wake up, and then I do between 30 to 45 minutes of training. So, I have the trainer come to the house early in the morning. The guy in Cotonou is especially he loves his job too much. So, comes in. I do the workouts. I don't eat until 12, and it's usually just a lot of cardio, boxing, kickboxing, stamina, and less of weight. Just less of weight. And even when I do weight exercises, is body weight. So I try to do that 30 to 45 minutes in the morning where I can, and yeah, I'm good to go.
Amazing, brilliant. Speaking of Cotonou, I was there about 2 years ago. It's a beautiful place. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think if you come to Cotonou now, you'll be shocked. There's a lot of things, a lot of development, a lot of things happening. I think, and it's lovely. Like even anytime I travel out, come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there's something new that's happening. So it's just beautiful to be there, in the middle of all this development. And fun fact is, I have ancestry from Benin, from K2 on my father's side. So it's like
Wow.
homecoming. Yeah,
Wow. Homecoming indeed. That's really interesting. I had no idea.
yeah,
It's a beautiful Benin is a beautiful country, and I hope to go there again.
yeah.
So you're very well traveled. Obviously, we all know you as this global Afrobeats innovator and star. Um, but I know that you've been doing some other things. But before we get to the business side of things, I just want to know a little bit more about what you're working on in terms of music. I know you're working on the album, and as part of the project, you've teamed up with some contemporary African artists as well. Just
Yeah.
share with our audience a little bit more about that.
I think I'm very like I'm very follow the vibes kind of person. And I think last year, or when in 2021 I started recording this album, and at the same time I got introduced to contemporary African art by my very good friend and brother Joseph Owadako, who now owns a museum in Accra called the Noldor Residence. And him taking me through, I saw that stuff from the beginning, and him taking me through, going to see the artists who were in his residency at the time and seeing them work, having the opportunity to work and create from scratch, and then going on to see their works being, because of him and the appreciation for the art. I remember going with my um I ended up buying, and then seeing that go from where I saw him at to seeing the same piece being in exhibition, somewhere else in some other part of the world, and just seeing, the dissimilarities between the way I create music in the same vein where sometimes when I hear the instrumental, I don't even know what I'm gonna sing about. And it's just like a plain canvas that then gets built together. And what contemporary African art is doing alongside what African music is doing in terms of helping people to discover Africa in a new way, not the news way or the history way, but the now way, and or the positive light and economic mobility it's creating, and cultural soft power is giving us as Africans. I just taught to kind of merge both, and it's what I've been doing in the past with the animations that I do for the most of my career. But now working with the contemporary African artists has been beautiful, and it's been beautiful to just see it come together. And I mean, it's not planned that the two, I collaborated with two artists so far, Patrick Corel from Benin, and Zimbabwe as well from Benin. And I didn't plan it. It wasn't planned that I would only work with artists from Benin, but that's just happened so far, and it's been a beautiful experience. The album is, I'd like to say, 80% ready, but now I'm working on something else as well. So, I'm deciding on which one comes out first.
Amazing. So you heard that live here, guys. The album is 80% ready. So we're really excited about that. And you touched on it that, people are engaging with Africa and African art and music in a new way, especially in light of how Africa may have been seen on the news in the past. So that's really, really interesting to hear. I know that, you said you've been working with the artists and it's like a blank canvas. I want to know a little bit more about your performance. Like, how do you prep for a performance? Is there a lot of practice involved, or do you tend to just like have a little bit done and then just go with the flow? Just tell us more about your performance and your approach to it.
By performance, do you mean like when I'm making the record, or like actually performing on the
So,
instrumental, or performing to the stage, to the audience?
performing on stage mostly. So like,
Yeah,
how do you
performing.
approach stage?
Yeah, to be honest, like I was just having this chat behind the scenes and saying sometimes when I do like a lot of like rehearsals and all the stuff I think I'm meant to do, I just get really tensed, and it shows off in the performance. But most of the best performances I've had have been more, just kind of catching the vibe of it, because music to me, and it's all about the vibe, it's all about the energy. And so mostly I just like to follow the energy, like, okay, what is this, what kind of audience am I seeing, what kind of energy is in this place, in the city, in the room, and then I go with the flow and adjust. So sometimes there isn't even, I don't like to have a fixed set list. I like to have the same freedom I have when I'm recording the song, because it's not like we're writing music and then we're singing word for word. Sometimes I say gibberish, like, and that's part of the lyrics. So I like to have that same. I think I'm very big on freedom. Freedom is the most important thing to me. So I always like to feel that freedom everywhere, including when I'm performing. So I like to go with the flow, and just feel the vibe, and have this kind of conference or ritual with the people watching, and just everybody have a good time.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot to be said for, not overdoing practicing or just being too heavy-handed with that. So I just want to pivot slightly, and
Okay.
because obviously I know that you've been releasing music intermittently for a while now, and I know that you're working on the album. But I know that your biggest focus right now has been growing emPawa Africa, which is a talent incubator. So I just want you to tell our members a little bit more about emPawa and the work that you do with it.
So emPawa is my brainchild, and the core of the reason why I started emPawa is I just felt there was no kind of like company that was focused, like solely focused on, providing services for creatives and creative entrepreneurs. So not just musicians, but content creators, to creatives, African creatives. So that's why we started. And obviously, since I'm a musician and that's the first thing I know, the primary and the first core has been to music and musicians across Africa. So right now we work with I think 5 labels, and we help provide label services, which is marketing, distribution, sometimes finance and administrative services to African creatives. And then we have about 23 artists that are, and we call them partner artists, because it's not like your normal record deal. It's like, okay, it's like an investment in resources, not just financial, but also, you know, manpower, marketing services, human resources, etc. And the goal is really to have this one most important majorly African owned company that, represents a bulk, a widespread of African artists from across Africa. Presently, we represent artists from South Africa, Tanzania, Ghana, Nigeria, Gambia, Cameroon, um, and all these artists are independent artists in their own right. They just come through us, and we provide services on top of that. So yeah, it's been a lot of work, going from thinking this is the idea, and then seeing how it changes in execution, and constant iteration, constant team building. Yeah.
Amazing. That's brilliant. And it's, just to use the word, it is so empowering to know that somebody's doing this on the continent. I just want to take this time to welcome a few new people who have joined our live. I'm live here with Mr Eazi. Hello to May from South Africa, Noah from Nigeria, Lennox from London, UK, Omega from Tanzania. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'd love to, have you interact with us and have you as part of the conversation. I actually have a question here. What would you say is your proudest achievement from the work that emPawa has done?
Proudest achievement, geez, I think it's just watching the artists go from, and this happens constantly, is watching the artists, grow from, just starting out. Like, I remember like Fave, one of the artists we've worked with, Fave, just like, super talented artist from Nigeria. I was a fan, and the team was like, okay, we love this artist. And speaking to her at the time when, you could see the promise, but it wasn't fully there. And her team, working with her team and the emPawa team, getting her to her first hit song and the second one and the EP, to the point where she's a superstar on her own. But beyond that, I think the proud moment about it is the fact that these artists are entrepreneurs in themselves. And so Faith is signed to her own label. And so in that sense, we've not only empowered like uh the artist, but her label and her ecosystem. you know and so this is one of the examples of what we do across board that has been great. And I think just the team, just my team, just the passion. I think if to answer your question, I think the one thing is just the passion from everyone at the emPawa team, like everyone just trying to iterate and you know give back quality back to the creatives and the labels we work with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We have a question here. So the question is, what's the biggest challenge for upcoming African artists and producers when it comes to monetizing their work?
I think in terms of monetization, the biggest challenge on the continent is the fact that there's not a lot of platforms that pay. So it's hard for you to be just a recording artist and getting good revenue. It's hard for you to get proper publishing revenue on the continent. But in terms of African music as an export, which is what it is right now, African art is an export, African music is an export. In terms of that, it's become so simple that there are platforms where you don't even need to pay any money to put your music up. So monetization globally has been simplified. But on the continent, for when you're emerging artists and maybe your first fans are in Shoki, and maybe you have, you know, 10,000 people in Shoki, or 10,000 people in Bariga, or 100,000 people in Kampala listening to your music locally, because there's no publishing revenue locally. There's not a lot of platforms paying. And I've had this argument with somebody. It's not that they're not paying. It's like, okay, what is the payment enough for you to even fund your career? And it's not because people are evil. It's just the economics of it. So I think that's the biggest problem for an emerging artist. Making enough money from the content to be able to sustain the career. So it goes back to artists then needing funding, at least, just like a business needs funding to sort of take you through that ideation to where you solidify the business model, and now you have your customers and you have a critical mass of customers, enough for you to start making meaningful revenue, or enough for you to last you till you start making uh making proper revenue.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And say we have an artist who has reached that critical mass. This is just related to a question that I've got here from Divine from Cameroon. Hi, Divine. What advice would you give young artists on how to build a career at the international level if they have already achieved domestically? If they're trying to get to that next level, what advice would you give to that artist?
I think it's work, 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 work. Like it's non-stop work. I remember like it's I remember flying, like paying for my own flight to go to London and DMing all the artists I saw on the charts, on the top 10 charts, DMing everybody and commenting on their profiles till somebody responded to me. A good example is, I was on tour in the US, and J Balvin, who I've made 3 records with, and he I just saw a video of him dancing to one of my songs on Instagram, and I DM his manager, just reaching out, and then I fly on my own cost to Miami to go um, record with him, and obviously that wouldn't have been done if I didn't have the finance to go. But at the end of the day, beyond the finance, it's just the willingness to go the extra mile and show up. And from that DM, from that showing up, I even went on tour with J Balvin in 2019. I went on tour with J Balvin, and all that cost was borne by myself. And going from a place where all my shows, everybody that come for my show knows my song. So before I even start singing, they're singing it back. But going to a place where I was humbled, where J Balvin was selling out stadiums and I was performing whilst the lights was on to people who don't even know the song, and I was paying for my cost, my DJ costs out of pocket. But in the end of that, we ended up recording 3 records, winning a Latin Grammy, over 7 times platinum, and that was basically the first time Afrobeat or Afropop and Urbano was having a time. I ended up recording a song with J Balvin and Bad Bunny, produced by Legendary Beats, written by myself. Um, so if I didn't show up, I don't think any of that would have happened. And it's a lot of like wanting it. So I think there's no limits right now for any African artist. It's just how hard do you want it, and how hard are you ready to go for it.
Definitely. And that's a great lesson to our members who may just be starting out their careers. The message there is work, work, work. And you too may, work with one of the biggest stars right now, Bad Bunny, just like Mr. Eazi has. We've got another question here. This one is from Innocent in Nigeria. Good afternoon, Innocent. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. How has your experience in the industry been with emPawa? Have there been any challenges? Has it all been smooth sailing? I don't know if you have any more, any more insight you can give to our members on that.
I mean, there's always the challenges are always there every day. The number one challenge you have is, we as a creator founded music company. It's interesting to think that, sometimes we think we know what the right deal is because, we're creatives, we're musicians, we're producers. Part of Some of my co-founders are producers. Some of them are musicians. So we feel like, oh, we know what these artists want, and we create this, and we offer this to the artists, and we see that maybe that's not what's working, and we have to constantly iterate. But I think that's how it is with a lot of businesses, and you have to be willing to constantly tweak your deal because the industry moves quickly. But beyond that, I think beyond that, it's been a lot of smooth sailing. It's been a lot of quick learning, and it's been a lot of growth. And I think the next few years will be really, really interesting for us at emPawa, as we feel we've kind of like found 2 strong models that we think works, and we've tested and we think works with African creatives, and it's now time to implement and write those big checks. Because I always say there's no talent deficit for African music. Every day I see new artists on Instagram tagging me, and I'm almost like weak. I'm like, damn, this is too much. But it's a lot of it is really funding deficit, and we hope with these two models we have now, we will be able to, and with the team we're growing, and the team that we have now, and the partnerships we have on publishing, on the music distribution, on the marketing, the platform partners as well, the DSPs, the TikToks, the YouTubes. We hope that in the next 2 3 years we'll be able to write those big and important checks. And when I say important, I mean to somebody $20,000 might be a very important check. To somebody's $5,000. To
Mm.
somebody's $500,000. To somebody's 2 million. But we want to be able to match the dollar, and give a uh, more flexible service to African creatives. Like you get all the freedom, you get the right splits, and you really just have your destiny in your hand. So we're not a music company to spoon feed you. We're a music company to help you achieve what you want to achieve, and
Mm.
you're at the driver's seat. So if it works, it works. It's all on you. Yeah, we supported you. If it fails, it fails. It's all on you. We were part of that failure as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've been talking about social media just there. So it's a good segue into a question that we have from Philip from South Africa. Thank you for your question, Philip. What kind of impact has social media had on African music in general? Like TikTok trends and Instagram reels. Can you say a little bit more about the specific impact it's had?
I think social media has done the most for African pop music. It's been the biggest contributor for the popularization of African music. There's no one company. There's any company that says, "Oh, we're the ones that made African music get where it is a liar." With social media, and I think social media has always been, or in recent time has been, the biggest driver, the biggest propagator, because it is expensive to. I remember we did a radio campaign um, for one of our artists. The song hit top 30 or top 40 on Billboard official charts in the US, whatever it's called. But taking that song to radio cost us about $200,000, and that's just taking one song um, to radio, and that is just one country. So you can imagine the cost to reach this critical mass. But we see someone like Nife, create a dance campaign for CK's Love Wantinty, and it blows up on TikTok, on Instagram, and the whole world is on it. Or you see Endurance from Ghana, who created my Patek dance challenge, and now I'm seeing people from all over the world dance to the record. And if I go back in my career, I see how it was social media that first gave me that critical mass. So I think social media is really important, and is leveling the field. And right now, a kid can just like make something in their room that's not even properly recorded, and
Yeah.
just upload it on TikTok, and people could see it, and the career can start. I was speaking with Mo, which is one artist you should check out from Nigeria. Mo, she has a song called Adulthood Na Scam, and that song just blew up on social media. So I think social media is really, really important. Although
Yeah.
again, it is getting expensive when you want to run those campaigns. So it's double edged. But as we speak, it's the platform with the lowest barrier to entry, with a lot of this possible discovery.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to get a couple more questions in before our time runs out. I've got one from Sonia in Paris. Good afternoon, Sonia. Thank you for joining us. Is brand partnerships something integrated in emPawa and emPawa's vision for their artists? Is it something that they want to develop? And do you think it can brand partnerships boost careers?
100%. I think brand partnerships can boost careers in terms of even the reach. Like, let's not forget that every artist is a brand on its own. And so, it's similar to when, you see uh uh um, two brands come together. Let's say you see Louis Vuitton work with this, or you see Supreme work with this, and you see how the reach is elongated, and one can leverage on each other. And so brand partnerships is very important. And I'd say, even on the integral level, at the beginning of starting emPawa, YouTube as a brand was um, a core brand that we partnered with to start the emPawa 100 program that then metamorphosed into what it is now, which is a company, a music company. So 100% brand partnerships. We're always looking to work with brands, always looking to develop those relationships. I think those are the hard parts, getting the ears of the brand, communicating the vision to the brand, whether it's a DSP, whether it's a consumer goods brand, whether it is whatever. That's the harder part. Now, when you get to that, that's when it's a lot of work.
Definitely, definitely. I just want to move on finally to investments and just ask you the types of investments that you're interested in yourself.
I think as like when I look at myself, I got into music because I read a book. It was called Empire State of Mind. My friend gifted me that book, and it speaks about Jay-Z, right? And so my manual to this thing called music has been Jay-Z from day one. You get me? So for me, looking at Jay-Z and seeing how he leveraged his brand and his access to fans and his access to capital and his called, whether it's cultural capital or actual, cash, that's what has informed me and informed my investment. And it's for Africa, it might not be t-shirts and hats with three written on it, but it could also be services. So I've been investing in financial technology with my investments in PowerPay, which is the best payment aggregator, doing over 800,000 transactions a day, connected to 50 MNOs across Africa in 15 countries. I've also been investing in the ticketing platform called Shoobs, which is the number one ticketing platform for Black events in the world, which is run and owned, majorly owned by an entrepreneur called a Ghanaian born entrepreneur. So it's been a spread of fintech, entertainment, from sports. Like we've been investing in boxing recently out of Dubai, and we have two WBC champions already. So fintech, sports, ticketing. We have two festivals now: the Chop Life brand. And the Dirty Rave Festival, which will be taken across Africa, whilst we take Chop Life um, across the world. To in Mexico, we've invested in Paisa, which is a remittance-based lending uh, product. Most importantly, we invested in Decagon, which
Mm,
is which has trained over 500 tech talents that now work for some of the biggest technology companies across Africa. So for me, I think the merch, for me, when I think about merch, I think about tech. And if you look at what's happening on the continent now, creativity and technology are the two things giving the new Africa a new image, creating new millionaires, creating financial freedom, economic freedom, creative freedom for the young African kid.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's a brilliant point to end on today. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and taking the time to chat with us. It's been great speaking to you here and hearing your journey from musician to tech entrepreneur and hearing those fantastic top tips that you have for career starters and artists who are early in their career. I just want to end by saying, Mr. Eazi, Zaga what?
Zagadat.
And thank you all so much for those who tuned in today. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but please continue to share your comments and reactions to continue the conversation. The entire show will be live on the LinkedIn News Africa page, where you'll be able to stream it once it ends. Thank you so much again, and see you all soon.